Hey guys, in this video I'll show you all monster sets that are useful for tanking in ESO, for both dungeons and trials. They're all going to be organized in three categories: essential, situational, and defensive. This list is also already on my website, so if you prefer a written version, just go there and read it instead. The website also already has mythics and weapon sets, on top of the monster sets that I'm going to cover in this video. So, let's begin. Starting off with the essential category, we have Archdruid Deverick. Archdruid Deverick allows you to apply major vulnerability for 7 seconds, shortly after you perform a heavy attack, which doesn't have to be fully charged. Major vulnerability increases enemies' damage taken by 10%, and the only two other reliable sources of it are Turning Tide 5-piece set and Necromancer's Glacial Colossus ultimate. The set has a cooldown of 15 seconds, so theoretically, you can provide up to 47% uptime of major vulnerability with just that. Major vulnerability is additive with minor vulnerability, so in practice it ends up being a 9.5% damage increase. So with the theoretical maximum uptime of 47%, we can say that Archdruid Deverick increases damage by 4.5%. This set is extremely useful, especially if you don't have a Necromancer in your group to provide the Glacial Colossus ultimate. It performs quite badly in trash packs, because the set itself has very buggy targeting, and can sometimes fly through moving targets without applying the major vulnerability. But it's quite good against bosses, both in dungeons and in trials. Next up we have Tremor Skill. Tremor Skill causes your taunt to summon a Dune Reaper after 1 second, which applies a debuff for 15 seconds, that reduces enemies' armor by 8% of your armor value. It has a cooldown of 10 seconds. If you're at armor cap, it's going to provide 2640 armor penetration, which translates to roughly 4.8% damage increase. If you're using the Puncturing Remedy weapon set, you're going to get bonus armor right as you proc Tremor Skill, so the armor penetration value will go up to 3120, which translates to roughly 6.8% damage increase. It is never the ideal option, as in dungeons it's more efficient to have your damage dealers alter their builds and bring additional penetration on their own, for example by using more light armor pieces to trigger the concentration passive, using one-piece monster sets with penetration, such as Vulcan Scoria, or being a class with penetration passives, such as Arcanists with their Splintered Secrets. And in trials, it's better to have a damage dealer using the Alkosh item set. But it's a great option for random groups, because you can't guarantee what builds your random teammates are going to use. And armor penetration is extremely potent when there is armor left to be penetrated, which is why I recommend using Crimson Oath in pack trials, unless you know for sure that some damage dealer is going to use Alkosh. Next up we have Nazorai. Nazorai causes you to extend major and minor debuffs on 6 closest enemies within 12 meters, by 1 second for every 20 ultimate points spent, whenever you use an ultimate. Which means that with 500 ultimate, you'll extend the debuffs by 25 seconds. This effect can only happen once every 30 seconds per target. Nazorai is a solid option in basically every environment, be it Foreman content, unoptimized trials, or optimized trials. Though in optimized trials, it's usually used on healers instead of tanks, as they can generate way more ultimate with the Pearls of Elnofey mythic. Its main purpose is extending the major vulnerability debuff, which increases enemies' damage taken by 10%, and comes from Necromancer's Glacial Colossus ultimate, Turning Tide 5-piece set, and Archdruid Deverick monster set. It will also extend other important debuffs, like Minor Brittle or Major Maim, which can be kept up without Nazorai, but extending them with Nazorai will give the tank some free GCDs. But this is a side effect, rather than its main purpose. Another situational use for Nazorai is extending Major Brittle provided by the Noon Attack monster set. Noon Attack provides Major Brittle, which increases critical damage taken by 20%, so it can be a replacement for Major Force, but on its own, it has extremely low uptime. This can be fixed by using Nazorai. It works well in phase-based fights, where you have a period of fighting the boss, and then a period where a long mechanic happens, during which you can generate enough ultimate for Nazorai to extend Major Brittle throughout the fighting phase when it happens again, such as for example all of the dragon fights in the Sunspear trial. Now moving on to the situational category, and starting off the set I just talked about, Noon Attack. Noon Attack causes you to spawn a 6 meter AoE for 6 seconds whenever you deal frost damage, with a cooldown of 15 seconds. Enemies damaged 4 or more times get afflicted with Major Brittle for 4 seconds, which increases critical damage taken by 20%. Since the AoE ticks 7 times, we'll be getting 7 seconds of Major Brittle out of it per proc. So we can achieve up to 47% uptime, which translates to a roughly 4% damage increase. But keep in mind that with Major Brittle and Major Force at the same time, you will most likely go over the crit damage cap. Because of this, Noon Attack isn't being used on its own. It has to be used in combination with Nazarai in order to be worth it. With that combination, Noon Attack can replace Sax's champion in short or phase-based fights. Noon Attack has a wind-up, so you'll still want to use Aggressive Horn at the beginning for its Major Force. But after the 10-second Major Force from Aggressive Horn expires, you can use Noon Attack's Major Brittle and extend it with Nazarai, instead of using an ultimate with Sax's champion. Next up we have Encratis' Behemoth. Encratis' Behemoth grants you Behemoth's aura for 12 seconds, after you deal flame damage, with a cooldown of 15 seconds. Allies within this aura take 5% reduced flame damage, and enemies take 5% increased flame damage. The Dragonite damage dealers will benefit the most from this set, as the huge majority of their damage is flame type. Other classes will still benefit from it, as they'll deal some flame damage with Elemental Blockade and Burning procs, but it's going to be a very small increase. In trash fights, however, it can be a massive bonus for any class, as the Elemental Rage ultimate is the best option for quick AoE damage for every class. Encratis' Behemoth can also be used defensively for any fight with lots of flame damage type, such as the Arcasis fight in the Stone Garden dungeon, or the Flame Herald Basse fight in Rogrove Trial. You will need to deal flame damage to proc it, and Scalding Rune is usually the best ability for it. That's available for any class. Now moving on to the defensive category, and first we have Lord Warden. Lord Warden grants you a 50% chance to spawn a Shadow Orb for 10 seconds, whenever you take damage, which increases the armor of you and your allies by 3180. It has a cooldown of 10 seconds, so you can get an uptime very close to 100%, if you're constantly taking damage. Lord Warden can be a great option for increasing your group survivability, in fights where you can stand close to your group, and there isn't much movement involved, such as the Ansul the Tormentor fight in Scientist Edge Trial. The 3180 armor should provide around 6% damage mitigation to your teammates. Next up we have Roxa the Warped. Roxa grants you up to 310 health, stamina and magic recoveries. Its 1-piece bonus grants 70 of all recoveries, and the 2-piece bonus causes you to gain stacks of Darklight every second while in combat, up to a maximum of 30, and each stack of Darklight grants you 8 of all recoveries. Roxa is the best defensive option if you're struggling with sustain in a fight, although it won't help with your stamina sustain if you're perma-blocking, as the stamina recovery is paused while blocking. And that's it for this video. If you have any more questions, you can comment down below, or join our Discord server Wildheart. As always, feedback will be appreciated. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel and check out my Twitch. Thanks for watching and see you next time.